Okay, so what I had on the list here was a report on the project. So Jess and Alex, you kind of researched MOOC platforms. Do you want to talk about that? Know what you found? Or?
I can jump in, Alex, if you want, and add whenever. So yeah, I think I saw Alex already adding stuff, and I did some more as well. I was curious to know, actually, Alex, you were able to create already a demo server for edX, and I couldn't even find how you did that, so I thought it was a super cool thing to do. I did a bit more. I was focusing on like what would be like, edX seems to be already very good, and I was just curious about other platform that could host MOOCs. And I focused on nonprofit because some are commercial, and meaning commercial as like you got to pay them to install for your course, right? It doesn't mean that you can choose to make pay participant or not most of the time. But when I mean by commercial, it's mean that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but I think it means that you have to pay as someone who wants to create an online course. You're gonna have to pay for it. So I'm more focused on like the cheap. That's what you understood too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I did the Show Academy. I think that's Alex. You put that. Khan Academy as well, which is a non-profit. I put this one because there was they apparently using YouTube. And since we have lots of YouTube video, maybe that could be something to consider. I found Peer-to-Peer University. It's an open learning community. Canvas is also open online course network, but it seems to be more for students, teachers, and institutions, like more academic stuff maybe. There's Moodle, I don't know how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open source learning management system. Well, I put more explanation. I don't know how much you want to go in depth there, Edwin.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that there was either a MOOC that could host online training, and they would have most of the applications and they would have the server and stuff for us to do the online training, or if we want to do it ourselves, you would need to install yourself, like for example, this LMS, this learning management system, so that if we want to do it ourselves, we would have to install stuff like that. That was my understanding. So I put what I thought was interesting. And so far, my preference seems to be edX.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah. So I looked at edX and I basically followed their directions to actually set up a little edX server. And I used Amazon. They have like a web hosting thing to do it. I got it running. I think I shut it down so that URL that I put in the doc doesn't work right now. But but I got it running, and I could see I could basically see this EDX Studio, which is this interface for kind of designing your own courses. And it had a demo course in it, and I kind of just played around with it for a little bit, and it looked cool. There was like a module, kind of like a component aspect to it, kind of like what you were talking about, Edwin. So you could design like at first I want students to go through like this little thing and answer these questions, and then this little thing. I don't know if there's an element of like meeting through video at the same time. I don't know, like that kind of person-to-person aspect. I don't know if that's part of it, but I mean, you could always just say, here's the Zoom link, kind of how we're doing it now, and kind of do it separately from the platform. But yeah, it was relatively easy to get going. And that would be like the nonprofit thing that you were talking about, Jess. It wouldn't be commercial. So the only expense would be paying for like the hosting, so like Amazon. And from my experience with that, it's just a question of how much demand you're expecting. Because if you're expecting lots of people to use it, then you need to pay for like better, better services, better performance. But as a demo thing, you can get it pretty cheap.
So it's not like you're on the edX site, but they have like a software platform that you build on. You have to host it on some service, and it has to be, so you buy web space, and then somehow there's a module you launch, and they give you a bunch of tools for training.
Yeah, exactly.
Designing the training.
Well, and they have the other option too. They have literally like a one-click install thing where they'll handle all the hosting and all of that. But then you're paying, you're paying. It's more of a commercial service at that point. But that would be the much easier way to do it from a skill expertise standpoint, because you wouldn't need to be managing servers or anything like that, managing hosting. From my understanding, it would be a very simple kind of straightforward UI just for editing the course.
Oh, edX has you can host on their site, but you just pay for it then for their hosting?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could not see prices though, Alex. Did you see any prices?
There's a couple different options. So one of them is for up to 1,000 users, it's 150 euros a month with a 30-day free trial. So that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, that is a.
There's 5 different service providers listed on their site. So that was just the first one.
And what is Amazon? They're hosting. They're doing web hosting now.
Yeah, well,
kind of like GoDaddy or something, or.
It's not exactly like that. So edX basically gives you this virtual machine, and you can just put the virtual machine into Amazon and they'll just spin it up. And the virtual machine has a web server built into it. So it's sort of like GoDaddy. It's a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more technically challenging, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's why I didn't understand. Okay, that's OpenCraft, EdgeNext, AppSambler, or the service providers.
Right.
And so we would pay to them if we would use one of them?
Exactly.
Okay.
And what about the tools? Like, is there something where it creates, is it really a helpful structure, do you think, for creating a MOOC in the sense that, that there's some kind of real value added in terms of the overall structure? I mean, we're looking at sort of education, and is it like it's kind of optimized for all the concepts that are involved in sort of education and training, huh?
Yeah, it looks decent. Like I said, it doesn't have the peer-to-peer aspect of it. But I don't know if we're going to really find that in any of these open source things, because I think that's a little bit of a niche thing.
Yeah, they're usually geared to one person kind of going through on their own through the training versus
this other provider at EDU Next has a light version, which is free for 50 users.
50 users? Oh,
yeah.
That's a good way to try something.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alex, of the Moodle? Because in the Moodle, in the article I found, it was saying that it's easier to install than EDX, and they are hosted or one-click install option available. Moodle is suited for organizations that want a full-featured, customizable LMS, but that would mean we need to know how to do those things. Numbers of configuration options can be daunting, and system performance suffers with large numbers of students.
Yeah. Well, so it looks like Moodle has a free version for 50 users also. I don't know anything about how the actual service, like the UI, differs between Moodle and EDX. So that would be something to compare, just like which one do we like better, which one is easier to use and stuff like that.
I had done a training through human-centered design training from IDEO, the design company, and they were using, there's the Acumen Fund. They have a whole series of trainings that they do, and so they partnered with the Acumen Fund, and then they have a training environment where everyone creates their own account. It's a little bit like a little mini Facebook, right? You've got your own account, and then you join teams. So it's it's sort of a let's see. Here it is. Actually, I'll show it. I'll just do a screen share. So this is the page, the project for the MOOC platform. So if you click here, it goes through to the shared document that you have. But if you scroll down, I started putting some sample MOOCs here. So there's this one, which is, I don't know if you know of any sort of samples, so kind of models, that we can model it. And so this one is a conflict. Oh, this might be something, Rita, that you're interested in. This is it's called Moving Beyond Intractability. And this is their massive open online seminar.
The MOOC.
The MOOCs. The MOOCs is and they're out of the University of Colorado. So they've been around a long time. And they've been studying conflict. And they have, theirs is a simple lesson here where, they've got Unit 1, they've got the different parts, Unit 2, and each one is a separate lesson, which is about 10 minutes long. So you click through, and they have a little video, and then a synopsis, and then they have the full transcripts too, of what's said, and so you can click and play the video. And it's really, they really know a lot. They're really going into the whole aspect of, social conflict, big social conflict, the theories of it, and how to address kind of what's happening in the country, presently. And so they have quite a few units, and they keep adding more units. So they just added a.
So it looks like the MOOC, it's created on their own website. Yeah.
And it's not a complicated one. All it is a directory of lessons. And their video is on Vimeo. So all they do is they create their video on Vimeo, and then they just embed it in here. And it's kind of geared towards, it's not a peer-to-peer sort of learning. You just kind of go through on your own. But it could have been peer-to-peer in the sense that each lesson you have a peer, your team kind of discusses it, or something like that, or group. So,
well, I guess maybe this is the next question for you, Edwin, like what do we need for a MOOC so that we can select a platform easier by knowing what we need?
Yeah, well, here's there's the introduction to human-centered design. So this is a bit of kind of what I was looking at as a model. And this is the Plus Acumen site. So you can click through to that site, and they have the interface for how this is like a 9-week course. You enroll. They do it with the start date, and then they've got like description page for the course, but they have a whole bunch of courses. I wonder if eventually, you know, it could even sort of, and they have variety of, you know, all the courses. They have paid, free courses. And so you sort of partner with them, and they have like a course prototyping. I've done this one and I've done this one. So anyway, that's just kind of looking at kind of what's out there. And then this is one from the Science of Happiness, which is the UC Berkeley Greater Good Science Center. And I'm not sure where they host theirs, but theirs is a sort of a lecture. You know, they have lectures and you listen, and you know, you can get continuing education. And they've had over 100,000 people take this course, you know, so.
How much do people pay for that course?
The course is free. Unless you're wanting a certification, CEUs, you know, continuing education units, and then you're paying for those. So that's like another model. And so the other thing is, oh, here, yeah, there's you can, if you scroll down the page, you can get through to the document that you were working on.
Cool.
You can embed. So the other option is, let's see, is, I think I put it down here, is to use like Google Sites too. Like if we want to create just a rapid sort of prototype that's free, that's, you know, I've been using for our MOOC for the trainers, you know, for our design team, been using the MOOC, and I just created a quick empty new Google Sites, and they're free. I mean, they're, you know, you don't have a unique URL. It's kind of a long URL, but it might be something to kind of get started with to, I don't know what you think about that. Like this one is just empty, right? We just have however many lessons, and you know, it can kind of get us started right away, and maybe be prototyping it while we kind of decide what other platforms to be moving towards. Because this is the MOOC, not MOOC, this is the empathy training site that we have now, which is, you know, what that our teams are using. And it's, the nice thing is it's free and we can get started right away. So I don't know, that
could be a good place here to explore, to know exactly what we're missing, what we need, what we want to see.
Yeah, to just create like a little prototype.
Yeah.
And if, you know, kind of, and everybody can edit it too. So it can add, yeah. Do
you give the right to everybody then?
It would be, let me share it here. So this is the site. You know, we can just go under share, and so multiple people can edit it. So if we go to our team, let's see, Wednesday team, and we just kind of copy the emails, and we just add the emails there.
So you're still choosing who can edit.
Yeah. You give permissions. It's easiest if you have a Gmail account. It's a little harder. It's kind of, I've been running into more problems, you know, when you have different emails. But you should you should be receiving an email that says, yeah, you can edit this. So then you go to the course, and then to edit, there's just a couple simple things. One is every page there's an edit button here when you're logged on to have permissions. You just click the edit, and then you can say this is a test, and then you just save, and then you can create a new page. So we want to create a new, let's say, lesson 5. We put it within the lessons folder. So then we just create this page, and then we can edit 5. And yeah, so it would be, you know, this would be sort of a public facing training, where the other one, you know, our other MOOC, I mean, the design team one is just, you know, it'd be totally confusing for people to, you know, go into that because there's so much there. But this could be like a cleaner start. And then, I mean, yeah, so it would be, it might be something to start with to get a bit of a prototype, and then we can sort of, you know, graduate into seeing how the other ones might work, like edX or something that's free too. I don't want to be paying a bunch of money for something we're not charging for, at least initially.
No, yeah. Or if we really want to, we can do a fundraising campaign.
Yeah, I had thought of
but
doing...
that's a lot of energy. I hate doing that, by the way. But it could be also, it's an idea of having a fundraising campaign to help us finance a MOOC.
Yeah. Yeah, I had been planning on doing that, doing like a, you know, a Kickstarter type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know, what do you think? Is that?
I like the idea of trying like having prototype with lessons so that we can see what kind of content we want to have. And then to define what's needed and what do we want.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good point that Alex made about none of them are really interactive. How can we make that happen? For example, if this is something, it sounds like this is something we really need, interaction.
Well, the interaction is sort of what we're doing here, right? Where somehow we'd need a way of if
putting people in some video.
Yeah.
Because usually it's just one video of teaching, like a video, and then they have assignments that you do, and there's a forum when people can share, but there's no like video like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it, sorry.
Or go ahead.
Is it a video for the seeing of sharing, or is it having the lessons and then some specific meeting lifetime in between for people to engage? Or your intention is only for people to self-learn through the it's like almost like having an empathy space.
Yeah, the idea is that we form teams, that we have a series of lessons. Right now the prototype is we have 16 lessons, which is each chapter of the book is a lesson. You read it on your own, and then you come together in a group and you do empathic listening. So that's kind of like, this is the prototype, and the question is, do we redesign those 16 lessons to make it kind of more compact? And also, the lessons could also be video lessons. Like we could, instead of just reading, that someone kind of presents it, and then you watch the presentation. So you can, it's like that other one, you can watch it, so there's more of a personal connection with the person speaking, as well as you have the text, so you can read it. And then that could even be changed later to be sort of an animation, right? That's how I had mentioned one of the emails is there's these animations, and I created a page for that. Let me just show that real quick.
It feels to me that you haven't really answered Rita's question. Like for me, what I was hearing is like you explaining the how you are visioning that, but for me, it doesn't explain like your intention of like this MOOC. Like the big why is like cultivating a culture of empathy, but the intention for this MOOC itself, like, is it more gathering people to just practice empathy and then creating a community that they can keep connected later on, or you want to do a bit more of the intention is just the book, just practice the book, and then done. For example, that's what I heard from Rita's question.
Is that what you mean, Rita? So is that? So yeah, the idea is to have a starting point for learning empathy, and then it keeps developing, right? We have an initial so many lessons, and then we just keep adding more lessons. That it becomes a platform for adding more lessons, kind of sort of indefinitely, with the intention of building a culture of empathy, which might be a big concept, but I don't know. Does that seem clear? Is that answer? Maybe you could give a reflection. So,
there is the platform. I guess the question is there something on the side for people to connect, or your intention is for, if I want to learn about empathy, I'll be able to go on that platform and I'll study it with all those videos and everything that is out there. And can I join as well someone live to be able to engage?
I see.
Kind of way.
Yeah, so the idea is that you form an empathy circle. You form a team of 3 to 6 or 7 people, and then you take just sort of like we're doing, you form a team and you go through the lessons together. And that the course could be, and you can go through, we have enough tools so people can self-organize. I mean, we can support people in coming together, and they can do it on their own, or they can pay for a facilitator. Like, if Jessica wants to facilitate one, that she can become a facilitator and lead people through. So there's added value for having a facilitator, right? It's going to make everything easier and smoother, and you have sort of that expertise. But the thing is to have that empathy team, right? To have that group, and that you go through the course with the team. Is that? I'm just wondering if that. I want to be sure it makes sense.
So I'm not gonna, if I'm the public, I'm not gonna just engage in the MOOC, or probably I could play around and go and check different.
Yeah.
And what you envision is also creating groups of circles, as you call, of 5, 7 people, who either gonna navigate it as a group, or even the step above would be to have a facilitator like Jessica, who will lead that group. So there would be kind of different levels.
Yeah, and if you have a facilitator, there'd be some kind of a payment plan too. I mean, way that they could pay for the facilitator to lead them through. The idea is that it's this empathy circle group, and that we can try to replicate it as much as possible, to trying to figure out how to make this as replicable and usable as possible. I find that like the circle, the group, is a very replicable process. So kind of teaching people how to do an empathy circle, and they also can kind of spread it. So it's very much around this concept of the group, the empathy circle, and forming empathic, forming empathic group, and how do we create a more empathic culture within the group as well. And that it's ongoing. We have sort of like an introductory part, but then we have to keep creating more lessons. We've been generating a lot of different ideas for other lessons, farther down the road too. So.
I'm interested in looking into the other example you were showing, Edwin, to see, because your idea of creating groups like that, I'm not actually sure right now if a MOOC is the right model for that. So I want to see what already exists as specifically for soft skill stuff, what people are doing. And I can also, I'm committing to something, hold on, I need to think. I will be able to start at like mid-August because I'm going to go away for a while, but I like to play around with this empathy course thing and like see what a lesson would look like. But just challenging now the idea that maybe a MOOC right now, I don't know, like your idea of having 6 person in the team, I was trying to picture like, because I've done online courses as well, and it's so, the idea is to be self-paced and you do it on your own time. And so we're adding kind of a constraint for people they're going to put in teams with strangers. That might involve a lot of thinking about what if someone wants to drop out, how does that work?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of things that we're going to need to figure out. Do we want people who come already in groups or like always having a facilitator to start with? Like I'm not sure anymore if a MOOC as the how to do an online training is the best idea.
Okay.
I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, so you're
I see Alex shaking his head. I'm like, I'd like to hear what Alex thinks.
Let's hear Alex, what he's thinking.
I was thinking similar things as like, I was kind of empathizing with the existing MOOCs and how they do it. And I was thinking, it's challenging as we've found just to get a couple people to, agree to the same time each week or something like that, just because people have changing schedules and, sometimes in some settings, like if people are actually in a university or something, then they're dedicated to that. Or if it was through a job, through an employer, and they could say, everyone on our team is going to set aside Thursday afternoon or something, like then it would work. But to get people to do it in their personal time, that's always, I mean, even trying to hang out with my friends is challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm understanding like that's probably one of the reasons why MOOCs don't have this interactive element, is because it is a big constraint. And then also like Jess was saying, having, or sort of like you were saying, Edwin, having an instructor or something, having an instructor actually present as opposed to just pre-recording a video, that's also a much bigger expense for the MOOC, because that means the instructor has to be trained and present in each session each week, as opposed to just pre-recording a bunch of videos and putting them out and being done with it. So yeah, I see those as definitely two probably pretty big challenges. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like that you're saying the scheduling, it's just hard to get people together to do a course like this together is going to be a real challenge for scheduling, and somehow that a MOOC might not be the best format for it. I didn't quite understand that part, why, Jess, why a MOOC wouldn't, what was it about a MOOC itself that?
Yeah, because like Alex pointed out as well, like why in MOOCs right now there's no interactive in one video. The interaction happen in a forum, like people typing stuff at whenever they want. But in none of the MOOCs we've seen, there is a component where people meet at the same times regularly and interactive live. The whole idea of a self MOOC is you can connect whenever you want. without having the constraint of a time and a number of people coming all together. It's apparently not what a MOOC is about. A MOOC is about you do it on your own time. You just follow the assignment, the videos, and then done. And what I'm hearing is that you are saying you want the empathy circles. You want to use the book, which requires to try with people live.
Right.
And we are challenging. We are saying like that. It is going to be a challenge, like Alex pointed out, to have that as a MOOC. It does not mean that I want to make the difference between a MOOC and an online course. There's a lot of coaching, for example, I can see in the coaching world, there's coaching courses, for example, when there's a program, but like Alex mentioned again, it's more like it's in the sphere of like a facilitator is here, you're paying for a program that is limited in time, there's a deadline, and then you're going to meet each week with a facilitator. That's different than a MOOC. A MOOC is something that that's why it's massive online course. Like it's just, there's videos, there's written materials, and that's it. There's no, there is no live interaction live.
Okay, so a MOOC might not be the correct term if that's how the MOOC is defined. It would be more of a course. The one I was using as a model was the one I had the link there to, the IDEO course. So there's this, it used to be a 7-week course. Now it's turned into a 9-week course. They have 3 hours of reading, so they have all the material, for the course that you read. And then when you meet for 3 hours, and you form a team local too. So it can be in your neighborhood, with your friends, with colleagues. And then usually they meet in person. And I've done, several of these in person. I did some online as well. And it is a real hassle to organize, but they do create tools for people coming together. So you do need some way of, bringing people together, but it is very much a group process. So I think for empathy, just reading on your own, it's really about the practice. Without the practice, it's like practice is 80% of it. So it's,
so you're saying that you've seen live group happening in a form of a massive online course.
Maybe I'm misusing, I'm not using the word.
Because for me, there's a difference between a MOOC and an online course.
I see. So I was kind of like conflating the two. So if you're seeing the MOOC as an individualistic, just you do it on your own, and course, which you can do as a group with a facilitator, or just as a group, then it's really a course that I'm talking about.
I'm wondering, that if there's extension here,
Oh. Look like you're muted.
You're muted, Rita.
I'm imagining having the MOOC for people to be able to go and learn at their own pace and at their chosen intensity. And then having also a little bit like we have some online, because the online seems to make the most sense, having some online dropping centers, if we may, from different levels. And yes, you probably would need a facilitator. Yet, as you say, empathy needs to be practiced, or connecting people at least 2 or by 2 or by 3, like when we learn and we see, whenever we finish the course, they suggest find an empathy, they call it an empathy buddy. And we practice, and usually we have that relationship with, sometimes it develops more, but on an average we have a 1-year it works for 1 year and then something happens and we drop and then we connect with someone else or add other empathy buddies. Mm-hmm. So that may also be some kind of models, having a list of buddies that are available.
Yeah, the empathy buddies, I have empathy buddy too, so that's really helpful, and it could be something that could be added in the, I think it's the group part, as well as maybe some empathy buddies on the side too, that would be helpful. And I think too, I know, Alex, that, you're really wanting to do the practice, right? It was my sense is you want a place where you're able to share kind of what's going on in your life. So there's sort of a personal aspect to it. There's two things we're dealing with. One is sort of learning these skills, which is one aspect, and the other is having a space too to be sharing and kind of personally. And so how do we sort of merge or, hold those? And an empathy buddy, is one way of doing it with having a deeper connection, but also in a group, it's nice to have that. So that's the other thing I'm looking at is how to merge those two. I don't know what you think about that, because I know that's what kind of, I know one thing you're like, oh, how much are you going to spend on the design, right? I wasn't thinking of design. How much do you spend on the listening, the sharing, what's alive in us?
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, isn't it what we envisioned with the empathy space we wanted to have online?
The empathy space was more based on what Edwin empathy circles, right? Like it would be a place where we would just do empathy circles and practice like reflection like that. It would not be based on the book. But yeah, this is what we thought of. We wanted to invite people, like $20 for an hour. Anybody can join, and depending, like if this is a small group, we'll just do like we do now, like when we do empathy circle here, or we break into the vision would be like when we will have 1 million person on the webinar, we can break out in small rooms, which is easy on Zoom to do. But it was, the empathy space was the idea of to just do empathy circles, to just reflect, practice empathy with a time limit.
So people would choose to join in for that circle on Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 3.
Yeah, OJ, I just had a bad day. I just need to go to the empathy space to release a bit of that energy.
Alex, I don't know, was there something you're going to say? I didn't.
Well, that just got me thinking. It's sort of like an online empathy tent.
That was. I think this is. We realized afterwards that was about. Yeah, that's really. That's that. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that idea. And yeah, what you said earlier, Edwin. That's definitely like kind of what I was needing. Like I do want to practice. I do want to like learn. I want to read the books and stuff like that. But a big part of it is also actually getting to like share about stuff that's going on. So yeah, I appreciate you kind of mentioning that again. That is something that I'm looking to get out of it. That's important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is too. I think that's there's kind of two parts. There's sort of this skill building component, right, which is what the book is. It's a little bit more in-person. It overlaps with the personal, but there is a focus on let's learn these skills. There's a certain mindset. And then there's another, which is I just want a space, not just a space, but really for that personal empathic listening, practicing, but around things that are really personal and trying to work through and, anxieties, joys, whatever it is that's going on for us. And so how to sort of merge those. And in one sense, I find just doing empathic listening in a group, you just kind of learn some sort of osmosis without even sort of the didactic component, like the book. And so I'm not quite sure how to, you know, to hold the, you know, to, we do have one team that's team one. We've just pretty much been going through the book, and, you know, personal things kind of pop up, and so we're kind of merged. We have both, and we haven't done so much designing in that group. Is just sort of going through and doing it, and that team is pretty tight in terms of the connections that have been created. So it's kind of like looking what is sort of the effective way. The other component too was so I'm trying to juggle all these things. So it's I'm kind of throwing it all out here because I'm trying to figure out how do we put all this together. Is the activism component that that a lot of the training, the empathy has just been about, oh, for me being a better communicator, whatever. I just think that politically, you know, the country is moving towards this authoritarianism, which is sort of anti-empathic, and there's some real dangerous kind of stuff that's happening in society, and there's a need for empathy training to address, you know, socially address these social issues, and that's what we've been doing with the tent. You know, there's these people are like, these are knockdown, drag out street fights that have been happening in Berkeley, and I mean, there's blood, people punching each other, they're bloody, and we're the only ones that have been out there with the tent really offering an alternative. And there's only a handful of us, and we need kind of more support, more training to train people in this sort of mindset. And so I was looking at this as sort of being an activist training as well. So there's a lot of different kind of aspects to it, and how to, you know, be effective is kind of what we're looking for, to address everybody's needs as well as possible.
Yeah, maybe I can reflect.
Yeah, maybe that'd be.
So it sounds like so you've had a lot of success with empathy circles, like in your team one thing, and kind of melding the reading of the book and also practicing things and kind of going between them. And with the empathy tent, you've also had a lot of success. But maybe you're also feeling sort of concerned about the political environment, and you're needing support and just more people and in general to help you with that. And you're in general, you're needing more kind of empathy in the culture and in society, and so you want to have this activist element to kind of not just be a thing where everyone's practicing empathy, but then a thing where they also take that out and do something with it.
Yeah, I feel heard. Maybe we can go into our empathic listening component. Talking, if you want to, I feel heard. If you want to select someone, we'll go around until Rita has to leave. So
okay, I could do Rita. If you'll hear me.
Yeah. So
no, he's going to speak. Or did you want to go into empathic listening? Alex is now speaking to you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay. Okay. Well, so I have a thought sort of similar to what Edwin was saying, where I was actually thinking this before too, where I wanted there to be an element beyond just learning about it, but an element of taking it out into your life and doing something with it, which I think is what Edwin was saying. And I'm not necessarily thinking of it from like an activism standpoint. I think like that's one thing that I care about, but I also think there's other ways. Like for me, like I'm thinking about how to make it practical in terms of like just like a job or something. Like, you know, the team that I work with and stuff like that. I would love it just to kind of bring it into my workplace, or bring it into my personal relationship with my girlfriend or something like that. So I definitely like have a desire and a need for a practical aspect of it. I don't just want like a circle where we talk about our feelings and then and that's it. So yeah, so I definitely like have that need. I guess it's coming out in a slightly different way. It's like not necessarily activism, but yeah, but I do have like a need for sort of practical use also. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, so you meet Edwin in the intention of bringing empathy out there. You're not focused on the activism as much as you interested in it. It's not really where you the most excited about. You really imagine yourself bringing the learning of empathy into your workplace and into your personal relationship, like with your girlfriend or your friends, and you want to see it growing and becoming a reality in your personal and work life, as probably that's what excites you, it seems, the most.
Yeah, definitely. And the activism like definitely interests me too. It's just like it's not the only thing that I'm interested in. I also want to find ways to apply this in other parts of my life.
Yeah, you want to be part of this activism, and at the same time you want your life to be bathing into that empathy.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to bathe in empathy. I guess this is very touchy-feely, and like I feel like there's real application to it. Like I feel like a team can actually function a lot better when there is empathy between it, even if it's a completely outside of the empathy world. Like even if it's programmers or something, they can benefit from empathy. And so I want to put some like teeth on the empathy, you know. Like I want to like give it some application into circles that aren't really exposed to it as much, kind of. Like my work.
Okay, so you really see how empathy, which is not the people who are doing technical work, have no interest in empathy, and yet you know that a team would be so much more productive. So you want to see improving workplace and teams and productivity through the skill of empathy and making it happen.
Yeah. I would just really, I'd love to see it be applied in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Jessica? And it's fitting because the vision that I had with Jessica when we were planning the empathy space was really to bring into action empathy. And as you had said about Edwin's tent, it's online. I was imagining this online tent where people could come when they needed support and empathy, or experience or play with the concept. And I believe that it would support Edwin's activism by, I think, it would make the culture of empathy becoming cultural if people buy into it and want to do it and bring their friends, and then mushroom the number of empathy spaces and so on.
Yeah, so you're saying, I'm hearing that you see how it totally fits with the culture of empathy, intention, and Desire and Activism, that by creating this online empathy space, this online tent, how it is part of like the vision that you have. And I also want to say I appreciate that a lot, that you are, you know, come up with creative ideas to like, okay, let's try it out, and then we did try it out, and then it really fits. You can see how it really fits with what Edwin is talking about spreading the empathy in the world, and how it could definitely be one of those like ripples, right? We put like drops in the ocean, and then it creates those ripples. And that you didn't say it quite like that, but I heard also like the potential of online training, like this potential of using online as a way to spread the culture of empathy. Was there anything else?
No. It wraps it really well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rita. Edwin?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk a bit about the chapter affirming. This is chapter 10, Alex, page 42 of the book. I thought it was very interesting because I see so much similarity with what I've learned in coaching and what I've learned with nonviolent communication. In coaching, we call it either championing or appreciating. And here he's calling it affirming. So it's interesting because I feel as it's adding to this part on the reflective listening, when I feel this is where when it's getting juicy a bit, because so far I feel it's been only, okay, so you can basically repeat or paraphrase what you think you hear, and then you check with the person, is it what you heard? And the person say yes, no. And so now it's like, oh, so he's saying that, yeah, like if you notice the person is doing something that you want to point out for the person that it's a great thing or whatever, like you can actually add a bit of your own judgment about, wow, you did that thing, like, wow, Edwin, you are perseverant in your empathy journey. And so yeah, I was excited about this very small chapter because it's where I feel the listener is being more active. It's not passive listening, it's active listening. This is where the active, I think, gets activated.
Okay, so you see this chapter is where the listener becomes activated, so it has overlaps with, you're seeing overlaps with coaching and NVC, that this process, and it's you're excited about it in that it's the listener is not just reflecting, just plainly reflecting, they're sort of adding something, contributing something of their own, and that gives you real excitement. That
yeah, because we're not just, I like, the mirror is, reflecting what the person said, but now I'm like, okay, I'm not an object anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just a mirror. I'm actually a person with my own complexity, and I can add my own taste in the reflection I'm doing with the person, which for me creates the depth of a relationship. So that's why I'm getting, okay. For me, so far the book was a bit, okay, well, the roadblocks were fun, but I feel this is getting more and more complex and more layers, and I appreciate that.
So you appreciate the complexity of this, that it's like before it was a little, I don't know, it's like, it's just reflecting, I don't exist sort of in this, just reflecting. And here there's like a depth, more of a depth to it, and really appreciate that depth here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Then I'll speak to Rita. And I'm sensitive to the time. I think we have just a few minutes here. So I want to share my appreciation for you having been part of this team. And I I hope we can keep in contact because I think we have the same intention, same spirit, and perhaps even through your mediation work that you're doing, maybe there's some opportunities for empathy circles or something in there that we could, keep in contact around.
Thank you for saying that. I want to add that I'm so grateful to have been part of this. It's so meaningful. It's so meaningful, this work that you are doing, Edwin, and this superb vision. Keep that bone. Don't let go of it.
Don't let go of the perseverance and dedication.
Yeah. Keep it. It really look how it has grown to 4 groups, and it seems like it's taking a life on its own. And I of course, I will be involved as much as I can. It's superb to have met you so shortly, Alex, and seems that it's so easy to be connected through those meetings, and I cherish that, and right now I'm sad to say goodbye. Yeah, but it's not a real goodbye. I'll be around.
Okay.
For sure, intend
Yeah.
to stay connected.
All right.
Yeah,
Alright.
so I don't know, I guess that's, I don't know if anyone else has anything, any other gratitude for your warmth, and just you're always smiling, always puts me at ease and feel like a sense of warmth when you're here. So.
Yeah, I've only met you on 2 different meetings. Yeah, like Edwin said, I appreciate your energy, and I like your scarf. Very pretty.
Oh, now I feel really good. So take good care. Keep doing this good work, and see you soon.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
See you, Rita.
Bye.
You did, Erica.
So we can continue with the empathy. We have another 15 minutes until Jess, you need to drop off. So I guess I'll speak to you. Yeah, in the other team, we actually did the practice of going around and doing the try it of appreciation, and it was really good to. It's to appreciate, but. And it's subtle, where it's not like judging, like positive judgment, but it's like you do this action, and this is the effect that it has. This is how what I'm feeling, and being able to articulate that. So, and one of the team members in Team 1, she'd had a lot of experience, so she was able to hold it, very nicely. So. It's definitely it's a nice exercise. It more than nice. Maybe nice is it. I started catching myself as judgment. Is nice just a judgment? I'm trying to if you just reflect that part so far.
So to continue the topic that I offered, you are thinking that in the group 1 on Mondays. You guys did the try it, and you saw the value of that, and you appreciated actually the fact that I was kind of an expert to guide the conversation, and you are making this distinction between positive judgment and appreciation or affirming, and now you're kind of wondering yourself, okay, so what is it? If I say it's nice, is it a judgment? So you're kind of like curious and kind of like excited to kind of yourself learning those subtleties.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's those subtleties. I feel like I'm, in terms of affirmation, I'm not so tuned into the felt experience of the subtleties of affirmation, and it's something I would like to get better at, because I think it easily overlaps with judgment, and and how to be just, I think there's certain vulnerability in affirmation too. Something,
wow,
I don't know, something, yeah.
Yeah, so you're discovering yourself that, well, first of all, I want to appreciate you for seeing that there's a room for growth for you there, where you were able to notice that, oh yeah, that this is not one of my strengths, to go in that feeling place where that vulnerable place, like you said, like when it shows that you kind of need to open your heart to be able to say to someone what you see that's positive in them. So you kind of realizing, I need to grow in that, and it's also feel vulnerable, and again this curiosity comes up, and I like to explore that more.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I wonder if it's even more than what's positive in the person. It's sort of, it's not positive, or I don't know. I'm looking for the right vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's that to be accurate in terms of what you do. And this is the effect. This is what it does in me. I got kind of in the group. What happened is I actually said, everybody being in the group here, being interested in this, showing interest. It's like I almost got tearful. In fact, I started getting tearful in terms of the effect of everyone being present and having, interest in creating, learning and growing and in empathy was just very, I just felt my heart sort of soften and, tears wanting to come, just the sort of a gratitude that there are people who are, just showing up. You're showing up here, has this effect. It's just a huge sense of gratitude and tenderness in myself, So.
Wow. So you are yourself realizing how the impact it has on you in this, when we come the angle of affirming in the reflection piece, where for you it had is it's like an impact, like what the impact it has on you emotionally.
Yeah.
And you had this amazing experience last time when you were able to get into that vulnerable place, when you were like, you got tearful, you said, and you felt your heart more open, and you felt yourself appreciating the presence of people having the courage to show up and
exactly.
seeing you for where you were at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very moving. So I feel heard. Thank you for that.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. It's very interesting. Well, Alex, to continue on that, I don't know if you had the opportunity to read the chapter.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay. I'm curious because, like, Edwin mentioned a few things that makes me curious actually. It's not positive judgment. It's not like it makes me wondering about where are the distinctions here, like, because I think judgment are not necessarily a negative thing. Like, we are human. But we need to judge in terms of like, who do we need to trust and stuff. And I feel that when we add an appreciation and championing, we call it coaching or affirming in the book, we do make a judgment call saying like, maybe there's 3 things that appeared in when a listener is talking to you, and then because your own filters and stuff, you noticed one thing and you want to appreciate that, but it's a personal call. Maybe with the person being heard by someone else, the person would have appreciated someone else in it. So I find it interesting that the struggle that Edwin had to be like, no, it's not positive judgment, as it was kind of a negative thing almost to have a positive judgment. So I'm curious to think about that more. I'm going to stop here. Yeah, read a lot.
So you're feeling intrigued by this this chapter, and sort of this idea of like, when you're expressing affirmation, you're maybe making judgments about them. Like the example they gave is, you're a good friend, and you're sort of intrigued by like, if it's a judgment but it's positive, like what does that mean? You know, like if you're a good friend, is that, you know, is that a bad thing to say someone's a good friend? Or like, so you're kind of just intrigued by this and interested in this topic and kind of wanting to explore it more and think about it more.
Yeah, it's because when I think of NVC, like it sounds to me that Marshall is saying that it's not very comfortable in NVC. That would be judgment to say you're a good friend, you're a bad friend. That would put a judgment on someone. Actually, I don't like the word good, but it's a whole different conversation. So that's interesting where I'm curious to see in my practice of empathy, and I now like I really raised my conscience, my awareness on how every time I interact with whomever, can be the banker, whatever, I really try to see through the filter of empathy and be like, what is the needs behind, like what's and I try to reflect, like, yeah, this is how you feel, and then it's unfair, and and how I can make it the affirmation. How can I? What would be my own source in that? Yeah, like how can I make me feel comfortable finding my own words, my own comfort zone? And I agree with Edwin as well. It is a kind of a vulnerable place to open up and say, "Oh, I'm noticing that in you." It is kind of vulnerable. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how adding more of affirmation in my interactions. And I also think, and I finish with that, it's not in all my interactions though. I think affirmation would be more of a more intimate relationship, like friends or close colleagues. Like I would not necessarily say that to my banker, like, "Oh, I appreciate you," something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. Curious.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so you're feeling very curious and about this idea of affirmation, and but maybe some like uncertainty or like caution because you want to express it in a way that kind of works with NVC, and you know you're always trying to think through this filter of empathy, and so you want to express it in a way that is also considerate of their feelings and needs and that kind of stuff, and you also kind of want to know how to do it in a way that's in your own words that you feel good with. And like you said, Edwin also mentioned this, there's a sense of vulnerability, so you kind of you're sort of like cautious about doing it in a way that you're still comfortable with, and doing it with the right people, you know, not doing it, you know, maybe doing it more with relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I have a challenge for you, Alex. I would like you to do an affirmation for me right now.
Okay. So like an affirmation about you?
About what you heard me say. Is there something that you noticed that you were like, cool, or whatever is the book saying, whatever they define affirmation?
Yeah. Okay. I think for me, it's just really helpful to hear another person's perspective on all of it. And it's also comforting to hear you talk about vulnerability and your curiosity and your uncertainty around it. Because yeah, I feel that too, and it's comforting to hear someone else say that and to know that I'm not, you know, the only person who feels that way. So yeah, so that really felt good. It felt comforting to know that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate. Like, I feel that we could have a more less structured conversation if we would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like, oh, I had no idea how you felt about what I was saying, and saying that it's comforting. I'm like, oh, cool, wow. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll add to that too. So when I see you struggling with this issue, this topic, I I feel sort of a gratitude to see you're struggling, to know, and I feel like I'm not the only one struggling with it, right? So I feel a sense of like connection, and I feel a sense of support that, and I don't feel so alone. You know, it's like it feels good not to have that aloneness with that struggle, and just sort of I feel a sense of hope too. In terms of being able to address this. It's like a shared being able to address this together.
Wow, yeah. It's like the connection help realize our shared humanity in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah,
Oh,
and I was also hearing that there's a certain, you appreciate hearing that because it creates a sort of a sense of dialogue. You didn't know where we were with what you said. And that by hearing back how we were affected by it, that it creates a sort of a more of a dialogue for you, and so you appreciate that, or yeah.
Absolutely, it felt more like I would hang out with Alex and you in a coffee shop, and we will have a normal discussion, not as like only reflecting back, and then it felt like for the first time, I feel a real connection, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And on that, I think I'm going to leave.
Yeah, leaving with
Thank
connection.
you so much. Yeah.
Leaving on a high note.
Yeah. So I will see you guys on Saturday, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you'll be there this Saturday then?
I will be here this Saturday, but then I will be off for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this group, you're not meeting here anymore then?
Yeah, I think the Wednesdays, I think it would be easier for me on Saturdays now.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be helpful.
Good. Then we'll see you Saturday.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. It was a great meeting today.
Yeah. Enjoyed it too.
Thank you. Enjoy the last 15 minutes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so should we continue with empathic listening or for the last 15 minutes?
Sure.
You were up, you're next, so.
Okay. Yeah, I wish she hadn't left because there's a lot of good things she brought up there.
So you're appreciating what she was bringing up, and you're wishing she hadn't left. Yeah.
Yeah. It sort of just makes me think like there's so many things that can come up, like just in her what just talked about. Like I have so many thoughts and reactions to it, and it's like I want to express all of them, but like it would be like a mess to get through all the different things. Like I have thoughts on NVC, and then I have thoughts about like the fact that she asked for affirmation, and the fact that it made this more relaxed atmosphere, and so
yeah, so you're feeling a little sad that Jess left because what she was saying was just bringing up all these different ideas, and it's like a whole bunch of them that you'd like to really share and talk about, and including NVC and other, all kinds of different threads. And it seems like there's just a whole bunch of threads kind of coming up that you'd like to kind of express and talk about.
Yeah. I guess maybe like continuing with affirmation. So like when I was reading the chapter, I was thinking about NVC and thinking about the way that they talk about saying thank you, and how you kind of say it through a feeling and a need that you have. So maybe some of these examples, I hope this weekend goes well for you. You could maybe say like, I'm feeling some like positive anticipation for you because I'm excited for you because I don't know, because I want you to have a good time whatever you're doing this weekend, and something like that. You can express it in a more personal manner.
So you're noticing that, like with the NVC, how you speak, you speak from a more personal quality, in a more personal way, more of the felt experience that you have in relation to the other person.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, you're a good friend, you could say, you know, I feel really comforted by your presence because you always are there for me and you give me the support that I'm needing. And that might be a different way of saying you're a good friend, and maybe it's not as like based in judgment as the concern that you had.
Yeah, so to make that difference between judgments and more of a felt sharing of your own felt experience is, instead of saying you're a good friend, you could share what it is you feel in relation to the other person. Like, what are the feelings that are coming up for you in relation to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to say, like, you know, since I've been doing this empathy training project with you, I've really appreciated it, and I think one of the things that I really like about it is it just kind of slows down things for me and the conversation, because I've just found conversations with a lot of people, but I'm thinking about my girlfriend right now. It just goes so fast. Like, there's just, it's like she'll say a sentence and there's like 3 different triggers and all these feelings and needs coming up for me, and like I want to express all of them, and then before there's even a chance we're on to the next subject, and it's like everything goes so fast. And so I've really appreciated in this group how we slow things down, we take the time to reflect, because it meets my need to feel like I matter, that people are taking the time to actually reflect and they don't want to just jump into the next thing. So that's been really nice for me.
Mm-hmm. This group. So you've really enjoyed this group because in your regular relationships, they move very quick. There's a lot of things that come up and you're already moving on to the next thing before, and there's just all these unaddressed kind of feelings that you would like to share and have more time and space to share, but you're already moving on to the next thing, so there's a little discomfort, some sort of discomfort in that, and you're appreciating that we really slow things down here, and you can hear the individual feelings and be able to express those, and it's that slowness, and there's a sense that you matter, that what you're saying matters because you're taking time for it. Yeah.
It'll just be like the last thing, but yeah, like you said, a little bit of discomfort, and I think it is discomfort, but it's like, it's pretty intense. Like it's very painful to spend hours with somebody and have all this kind of emotional baggage just building up over that time, or a whole day, and never really being able to find the outlet for it or the release for it. It's draining. Yeah.
So it's straight when you're moving so fast. There's all these unaddressed feelings, and there's no outlet for them, so they kind of pile up, and it just becomes draining to be holding all those. And there's sort of would like an outlet to be able to unpack all those.
Yeah. I think we could spend an hour together, and that would give me like a week's worth of like.
Yeah, so maybe an hour together would help unpack a lot of, give a week's worth of energy for. I think that's what you're saying, energy for the week, or.
Oh, well, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, and that's probably true too. What I was saying is just an hour of this fast-paced conversation would give me a week's worth of stuff to think about.
Yeah, so things are moving so fast, all these things are building up, and really you would need a week to work through all those at a slower pace to sort of work them through so that it feels better, so it doesn't have that edge to it, that it has more of an ease to it and a spaciousness to it. and a feeling of mattering too. Like, hey, all these things really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. This topic is brought up a lot. That whole affirmation, is something I hadn't really thought of. So there's a lot of sort of new insights and kind of questions and sort of a pondering of, how do I sort of build on this? Yeah, there's a lot in this.
So, yeah. Okay. So this has been very stimulating for you. It's kind of maybe sort of unexpected. This chapter, this topic was surprising, and and now you're just kind of feeling very sort of, you're pondering and thinking and wondering about what else to do with this.
And how to incorporate it more, to kind of build on it, because I do see what Jess is talking about, because that was a real insight, is that when someone speaks, then you're speaking about how the effect it has, and you share that there is sort of a sort of a ping pong dialogue in it, like, and how you're affected affects the other effects. So there's a sort of a dynamic. I feel a little fuzzy about it, but I can see the importance, or it's not just importance, it's I can see the creativity in it and the relationship building component of it that feels good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're sort of needing, you're kind of wanting to find ways to apply this. It sounds like.
And build on it. Yeah.
Build on it. Yeah. And about Jess's thing, were you talking about how the way that she she asked me for affirmation as an example? Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it really meant a lot to her. She was feeling just reflection was sort of flat, whereas by her saying something and hearing how you were impacted by it, or the effect it has on you, it's like she got a lot out of that. There was a lot. It was connecting. I think it was a sense she was feeling more connection.
Yeah. So break form for a second, but yeah, I agreed with that. I enjoyed that too. And it sounds like you really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so I could see how having a dialogue where you can keep that energy going, it's easy to lose it. But it's like how to keep that energy going. Another thing I've been thinking is maybe, there's that aspect of how to have teams. There's different ways of learning of this and practicing. And one thing I've been thinking of is like a group that would be just talking about fears. So we're talking about just the felt experience and constantly going into fears, anxieties that we have, and that being the sort of the energy to have a group move forward, to be constantly sort of unpacking those. That seems like I don't know if this is a little bit off topic, but it's just something I've been thinking about. Maybe even starting a separate, group around that topic of fears.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for whatever reason, fears is an interesting topic for you, and you'd kind of like to explore that more with other people.
Yeah. So, and it could be a way for a team to move forward in learning the process, because it would be very relevant to what's meaningful. I'm looking at it's like, there's got to be a motivation for doing this work. We're kind of going through the book. It's got a sort of a didactic component to it, but doing something where you're talking about a painful, anxiety, fear, concerns, it makes it very relevant to our felt experience. So anyway, just something I'm thinking about. Maybe I'll set that up as a little test.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I mean, that kind of plays into what I was saying, just like a more personal element. I think something that I would appreciate, and yeah, gives it some emotional juice. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I feel heard, and so I guess we could just end the reflective part and just maybe we can even set that up at some point if you're interested. It would be like a separate group to explore sort of that thread for learning. I tell this story a lot that once during I do this freestyle dance, and once in the dance, I just kind of noticed the sense of anxiety, within my, kind of in my core. And, usually I just kind of ignore it, go, and I said, no, I want to get really close to it. I want to feel into it and feel it, sort of face it, So bring it into my awareness as large as possible to see the granular aspect of it. And so I did that, and I kind of moved through it. It was like really sort of, kind of moved through that anxiety. And then it turned, and there's a whole story of the experience of it. But then within 4 or 5 seconds, another sort of anxiety came. And I went to that one for like an hour. I went from one to the other. They kept coming up. And at the end, it was almost like a state of bliss, just to have kind of moved through all those fears and anxieties. And it just seemed very powerful. And it seems to deal with the political situation too, that, sort of an authoritarianism is sort of based on fear, right? And the counter is really to face the fears and move through them and foster connection. And so anyway, so as I've been thinking, about maybe a separate group, all we do is explore how to explore fears and use empathic listening and all these tools and processes. So I don't know, what do you think about that? Just curious what you're...
I mean, it sounds interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in trying it. Mm-hmm. I actually have a meeting like at 2 p.m.
Oh, okay, so close up. Okay, then we'll see you Saturday then.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll be here Saturday.
Okay, then.
Sorry to leave so abruptly.
Oh, that's fine. I understand. It happens to me. You got 1 minute. So.
Yeah.
Okay, great. See you then.